So you got faith, love, money, worldviews, and health being like, what you eat and how you exercise. We all grew up with experiences in these different 5 areas. So for you, you may have grown up in a very agnostic household, and she grew up and it was a very faith-based household. There's a potential source of tension, right? That needs to be understood. What was it like when she grew up, and how did that work in their household? And what are you open to? Is it just that you didn't grow up with faith, so you're not going to be a faith-based guy? That's it. I mean, that was me. I'll tell you how that turned out. That didn't turn out very well. That was fortunately I married a wife that had similar background, but she followed the path of faith, and then I dragged my heels, and it created tension.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Mental Purpose Podcast. I'm your host, Ian Lobos. Today we're going to be talking about marriage. My guest is Mike Povenz. We had a really great discussion. Had some technical issues, so we're going to get rid of those before you hear it. And it didn't stop our flow. Man, we were in flow. We were just going back and forth about some just great topics on marriage. So Mike, he wrote a book called Iron and Cotton, and it's a really cool concept. Let me tell you about it in a second. Before I forget, let's make sure that you are a part of the Mental Purpose community on Facebook. If you are not a part of the Mental Purpose community on Facebook, drop what you're doing right now. Get on there. Get signed up. It is free. There is free coaching. There are free giveaways. There's free contests. There's chances to win free coaching from Aaron and I privately. It's an ecosystem of like-minded men and some women who are looking to evolve themselves and find out their most authentic version of them and live the most fulfilling and regret-free life possible. So get in there and get involved in the Monday and Thursday free coaching platforms. I mean, it's so beneficial. Like, there's no reason not to do it. So anyway, there's that. Make sure you have subscribe to the podcast, the Mental Purpose Podcast. If you haven't subscribed, please do on iTunes or wherever you listen, and write a review. We've got some giveaways that are coming up. So make sure you visit our website. You can find it on mentalpurposepodcast.com, or you can find it at ianlobos.com. We've got a bunch of giveaways, a bunch of exercises that help people kind of just move forward. Like, we've got an assessment there just to kind of help you figure out where you are and what your next steps are to personal growth. It's freaking phenomenal. I'm so proud of what we are building here for other people. We're nearing... Actually, by the time this goes out, we are over 700, potentially over 800 members in the Mental Purpose community, and that is freaking fulfilling as hell. That is so damn fulfilling. So anyway, all right, here we go. Iron and Cotton, right? This book that Mike wrote, I didn't understand what the title meant until he told us in the episode, which you're going to find out, and you're going to hear it, and you're going to go, oh my gosh, yeah. So let me tell you a little bit about Mike, and let me tell you a little bit about the book. So first and foremost, the book, Iron Cotton, Mike offers an insight that informs and prepares men for the greatest journey in life, which is marriage. And in this must-read book, you will understand the obstacles and the challenges that ensnare other men but will not ensnare you. You'll receive the tools that help defy the statistics of divorce and grow you into the intentional and purposeful man and husband that your family needs. That's a pretty damn good definition. I'm real good with that. That's a really good definition, Mike. And so here are some of the things we're going to talk about in the episode. I'm going to wrap this intro up because I know this is running. So we're going to talk about the difference in pain and fear and how it helps motivate you. We're going to talk about what it means to be a man. We're going to be talking about reigniting the passion in your relationship. We're talking about a very common element that we talk about, which is your relationship, your marriage. It grows to the extent that you do. If you're expecting your wife to grow, if you're expecting other things to happen for your relationship to grow or your marriage to get better, it will not happen. I guarantee it. I'll put money on it. Until you grow, until you make a commitment to grow, your relationship will not get any better. It may be temporary, yet without your growth, it's not sustainable. Put money on it. So 5 core beliefs of humans. We're going to be talking about which kind of makes us tick. We're going to be talking about how to build your self-worth, seeking to understand, being curious, and asking questions of your partner. We're going to be talking about the definition of the man and Mike's 12 core values. We're going to be talking about rediscovering your wife, talking about discomfort now in communication, or the discomfort of a stale marriage, possibly divorce, infidelity, whatever comes with that. and we're going to be talking about the definition of an affair. That's it. You ready? Here you go. This is Mike Povenz, Iron and Cotton, talking all about marriage.
All right, Mike, welcome, man. So let's talk about marriage. And obviously, I just asked you before we started recording, what happened to you to force you into this mission, or has this always been your mission?
Yeah, no. First of all, thank you for having me on the
pleasure.
podcast, buddy. You're putting out some really good content, and I feel honored to even
thanks,
be
man.
here. So thanks for the opportunity. Hope your followers get some good content
They
out
will.
of this, and we'll go from there. But yeah, no, I'm with you. Usually when you see someone passionate about a topic, you're like, all right, what happened? There's something
Yeah.
there, right? Something triggered. Yeah, I'm not, it's kind of interesting. It was, for me, more of an awareness and an eye-opening kind of deal that happened more so than some tragic
Sure.
event. Or I know how that happens with people. Hey, this guy wrote What Radical Husbands Do, and he talked about his marriage being such a disaster and how he turned it around and what he had to do and what he learned and
Right.
all that. It wasn't so much that for me. Several years ago, we'll call it 5 years ago now, I was just on a journey of what it means to be a man in this world, and what is society telling us it means to be a man. What is it that I need to do to raise my son to be a man? And there was a lot of things that I was just trying to start paying attention to on what's been influencing me in my manhood, and what do I want for my kids. And I've got 2 daughters. One day they're going to be with a guy,
Yeah.
and how's he being brought up? So I just really dove deep into that. I'd go on runs. I like to run. Unfortunately, I've got a herniated disc right now. I can't run anymore, but be out there running, and that's just all I daydream about for 4 years. I mean, it was just nonstop thinking about, and that led to marriage, So a lot of those, like, what am I doing in my marriage?
Sure.
So,
Dude, that's a,
Yeah,
that's a, I don't mean like what happened, like a tragedy, or like, I think about like Wim Hof, and this whole mission and movement he started was from this tragedy with his wife passing away, just to paraphrase. And there's a big motivating factor in pain. Was there pain in your marriage? Was there a real, obviously, the thinking about the kids and who they're going to attract into their life, was there some missing in your relationship, in the marriage, that you were also kind of weighing out?
it was a multitude of factors, but specifically to marriage, there was a couple of things. One, fear. Fear is a great motivator, right? So it wasn't so much pain, it was fear of, what does this look like for my kids, and fear of, what did I miss out on from an education and knowledge that may lead me to divorce one day, or lead me to some unexpected tragic event for our marriage. And I walk with friends, and I see these different marriages that they're divorced, or they're loveless, sexless marriages, or they're just in some sort of roommate
Yep.
situation. I'm like, it doesn't have to be this way. So I had a little bit of fear of, like, that for me in my marriage. Am I doing the right things to make sure that doesn't happen? I had a lot of fear when I thought about, well, what about my kids? If I die tomorrow, did I hand off any knowledge to them to make sure they're prepared for how to have a great marriage? Because it can bring you so much health and happiness. On the opposite side, it can destroy you financially, and it can destroy your health if you're not in a healthy marriage. So I just got really passionate about that, and then even more so as I started to explore the topic and talk with buddies and sit with men and have conversations with guys that are going through divorce. I have a number of buddies that have gone through divorce, and it's just rip
Rocked
your
them.
guts out, kind of
Yeah.
awful. So that's the fire, that's the passion. I want to arm men with some more information. I want to get them fired up that this is something to even prepare for. I think so many of us go into marriage, and I use the analogy in my book about going hiking, and I'll stop for a second here. Do you like to go hiking, go on day hikes, things like that?
I do, yeah. And I live in a great place for that.
Yeah. Yeah, so you go on a day hike, right? All right, so does that mean you're ready to go hike the Appalachian
No,
Trail?
not necessarily.
No, not at all. So I think we date our future wives. We go on dates, and then we get married, and then all of a sudden we're prepared to go through the journey of marriage. No. Yeah, if we were going to hike the Appalachian Trail, if we're going to go on this long, epic version of these day hikes, if we had run into somebody that had been on the Appalachian Trail, we would be like, hey, tell me what you know. Like, what did you see? Or what would you avoid? Or like, what would you have us do? What would you do differently? What would you make sure we do? And how would you prepare? There would be a lot of research online. We would do a ton of stuff. We'd probably follow like Facebook pages of people who have done the Appalachian Trail. We'd do a lot of stuff to make sure we are informed about that trip. And what I want to get guys fired up about doing is be a little more excited and informed about marriage and what to expect. There's so many resources out there. There's books like I've written. There's even there's outstanding books out there for marriage. There's Facebook pages. There's groups to follow. There's a ton of resources.
Yeah, I mean it's an infinite amount of resources. The challenge is, do they want it bad enough? And here's the question that I'm kind of posing off of that statement. I know a lot of people that like college, post-college, especially that post-college, where they didn't lock down their person in college. And now they're single and they're in their 30s or maybe even late 30s at this point, and they're like, haven't found my person yet. Mm-hmm. Well, now they're getting more specific, which is not the way that the universe wants it. I mean, the universe rewards specificity, but not like that. And then like they're getting desperate. And like I think about people like that who jump in, and there's two different angles here. People like that who jump in and settle. Then I know plenty of friends from college who are like, you know what, this dating game sucks. This guy's pretty decent. I'm gonna lock this up, right? And what's interesting is if they had an easy out, they'd take it. Yet they're miserable and they stay. Now here's the question. Because of what you mentioned in terms of education about marriage, right? Most of these guys didn't want to be in this relationship long term anyway. Most of them did not make a decision based on their personal needs to get married. They were just like, marriage is the next thing, right? That's what we're talking.
Next logical step.
The next logical step. Or there was a baby involved, and marriage is the next logical step, whatever. How did those guys save a marriage when they really settled for it in the first place? And how do they get motivated to actually do the work on themselves and the relationship to save something that they actually don't see a future with? Because that's a majority, right? That's a good majority of people out there.
It's a great lead in here as far as, what we have with, what I talked about earlier, these kind of loveless, sexless roommate situations because I don't have a better option or I'm afraid to change or, it just ended up this way and I don't know how to get out of it and I'm a man of honor. I'm not going to leave her or, whatever. So that's where I would say so many of us are just, and I don't mean this to be rude or mean or whatever, we're just ill-equipped. And I know guys don't like to hear that. We are ill-equipped, but it's very real. I mean, think about the training that we've had to develop relationships. Each of us, take an individual's account of what did you see as far as what a relationship looked like. And for most of us, it's just we saw what our parents did.
Mom and dad, yeah.
That was it. Yeah, that was it. So if you grew up in a household where it wasn't a great relationship and mom and dad were kind of doing their own thing and they were living in a loveless, sexless, just roommate type situation, you're going to emulate a lot of that because you don't know how to make it better. You've never seen a really great marriage and what it can entail.
Yeah.
Do you know the greatest predictor of life expectancy? It's not diet. It's not exercise. It's not you're going to the doctor. Your greatest predictor of life expectancy is the health of your relationships. It's a huge study about that. It followed a lot of people, and it boiled out that you have got a better chance of making more money and being happier in life if you can work on the health of your relationships. So I want to implore these guys that are in these relationships, so you've invested in it. You're, quote unquote, stuck in it.
Right.
Well, you have the choice to make it better. It's up to you. So you can either complain about it and you can talk to your buddies and be like, oh, the old ball and chain and throw her under the bus and be sarcastic and be kind of a punk. Or you can turn it around and actually invest and turn this thing into something great. But that's where the tools are lacking. And that's where I would challenge guys to pick up a book. Take a look at my book. Take a look at somebody else's book. Follow some. There's a group called Marriage 365. There's Dave and Ashley Willis, if you're a religious kind of guy, you know, there's
Yeah, I've heard
there's
them.
a number of different resources out there to help you with. A number one thing here is just learn about your partner. Take a vested interest in who they are, and start dating all over again. You know, there's a
What about the awkwardness? So I talked about this on an episode I did like 2 days ago. What about when the water has worn enough of the rock down to start a channel, and the channel is clear? The water runs through that channel. It's very clear. That's the time on the relationship. And you're roommates, and yeah, maybe sex is still okay because you're still young enough, and you've let kids and job and all the other bullshit of life, you know, get in your way. That's your fault. Even if you're shaking your head right now, it's your fault. You've let that happen. A relationship is the only lifeblood of the relationship is the people in the relationship. A relationship is not an entity. It's you and them, and that's it.
Yep.
Like, what about, because I've had this before in my coaching business where a guy says like, dude, I want to fire this thing back up, but it's so awkward for me to say I love you to my wife again, or it's so uncomfortable for me. Like maybe a guy says, hey, my wife and I haven't had sex in like a year, which, by the way, guys, that guy who was saying that, and this is a random guy, this isn't one of my clients, was 28 years old. Like, it happens. All the bullshit bravado that most guys talk about when they're with their friends, that's not real. It's not real. So the question is, how do you kind of work through that awkwardness and that rut that's been formed when you've like looked up from, you know, all of a sudden you look up and you go, or you had something shake you and you go, holy shit, it's been 4 years and we haven't been on a vacation and I haven't really been passionate or intimate with my wife. Maybe we have sex every once in a while, but wait, how do you reignite that when it's just uncomfortable? You know?
No, definitely. I love where you're going. I am fired up about this topic because I want guys to be in meaningful, loving, rewarding, intimate, hot relationships. I want that for you. I want that for myself. And I think to do that, you've got to break through exactly what you're talking about, that discomfort. It's going to take courage. It's going to take some boldness. And it's going to take persistence. You didn't get there into this situation or problem in a short amount of time, probably. It's been little things probably over time that have led to where you are.
Sure.
And that separation that's happened, like you're talking, there's a channel, there's a divide. So you're going to have to stay invested and go, I'm investing for the long haul here to make this better.
Yeah.
And a big part of that is the book came out, and there's been a lot of stuff going around for a while about the love languages. And I think guys need to take a little more time to invest in that. You take the lead. You know, I laugh. My wife likes to send me these surveys. She's like, oh, take this quiz and tell me what kind of flower you would be. I'm like, I don't care what kind of flower I would be. You know, like, you know, you get these little things that some of the ladies like to do, and my wife definitely does. But this one you should do. You need to take the test and better understand. We all want to be loved, okay?
Sure.
We want to be loved, and we need to learn how to give love. So my love language is touch and gifts. I love getting a gift. I love, you know, getting a back rub and time with my wife. But that's not her love languages. Hers are words of affirmation and quality time. But it's amazing how we give the love that we want. So I'm trying to give her a back massage. I'm trying to give her gifts and win out, you know, her love and affection. And at the same time, she's giving me words of affirmation and trying to spend quality time like I'm good. You know, I don't need that.
Right.
So
Right.
You got to recognize that. Love is an action. It's not a feeling. Okay? A lot of guys want to say, well, I just don't love her anymore. I don't feel it or whatever. You have to give love to actually start seeing love happen and feel love. Okay? You can't just, I don't feel it anymore. If you don't feel it anymore, that means you're not taking enough action. You're not making love a verb.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, love that. That's a great point. That's a really great point. And let's start with one of the pieces in the genesis of this whole shift and transformation is just admitting that you haven't done it the best way you could, or you haven't put all the effort in that you could have, or you didn't do things that served the relationship, or let's blame. Which we can in this case. Blaming is usually for victims. However, in this case, let's not blame. let's identify where we were programmed, right? Let's identify where we were programmed. In our coaching curriculum, in our mastermind or one of our events, like the one thing we lead people through is a structure called the purpose-driven formula, where it's illuminate first, which is understand how you got your beliefs, your language, your programming, your mindset, your attitude, your habits. Somebody programmed you, like you said. It's mom and dad. We watched them as models for how long? And nobody ever looked at us and said, hey, by the way, your mom and dad aren't good models. Don't watch them. Because even if they did, we'd still watch them because it's just ingrained. It's unconscious.
Yep.
So like, in AA, first step is admitting there's a problem. So the first step is like, don't blame your wife. Don't blame yourself. Just go and seek out and understand, right? Where did I get programmed from? Why do I feel this way when my wife does this? Why do I react this way when my wife does this? Why does my attitude shift when somebody does this? The more you can understand about you, the more the relationship can change. If you don't understand you, you're literally going into the relationship as the same person trying to change. If like there's a common phrase in this podcast and in our coaching world, your life, your business, your relationships, your money, it all grows to the extent that you do. So if you want to have a better relationship, you got to work on you. Must. It's a must.
For sure.
Cannot do it any other way. And you cannot expect the other person to grow and change the relationship. I tried that. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. You got to change. You got to grow. No, that doesn't work. You know?
Yeah, 100%, buddy. I've been through a lot of research with this. I've been through some different things with marriage counselors, and absolutely, everybody's got to focus on themselves and getting themselves healthier, better understand who they are, why they react the way they do. In my book, I talk about 5 core beliefs. We all will. I narrowed it down to 5 things that we would probably kind of go to war on, like we battle, because they were our quote-unquote normals. So you got faith, love, money, worldviews, and health being like, what you eat and how you exercise. We all grew up with experiences in these different 5 areas. So for you, you may have grown up in a very agnostic household, and she grew up and it was a very faith-based household. There's a potential source of tension, right? That needs to be understood. What was it like when she grew up, and how did that work in their household, and what are you open to? Is it just that you didn't grow up with faith, so you're not going to be a faith-based guy? That's it. I mean, that was me. I'll tell you how that turned out. That didn't turn out very well.
Not good.
That was fortunately I married a wife that had similar background, but she followed the path of faith, and then I dragged my heels, and it created tension. Love. What does love look like in your family? Like we talked about earlier. How did you see your parents love each other? How were you loved? What does that even look like? And was it healthy? And do you even realize, was it healthy? I had again, the normal. I had a guy one time tell me that he and his wife were on their 6th separation. Jeez. And he's like, man, it's just not good. And he goes, but even worse is my wife came back and she's like, it's okay. My parents separated like 12 times. This is just normal. Oh. So you got to look at.
Is that somebody that's unwilling to do the work? I mean, obviously there's some programming there. Is a 6th separation? Is that a couple that's unwilling to do the work on themselves?
I would think so. I don't know them intimately enough. I mean, I think it's something that, we keep separating.
We're just speculating here, but yeah.
Yeah, we need to reflect here on what am I doing, what are you doing? And I think people are also scared of counseling. Individual counseling, maybe even more so than marriage counseling, is some advice I've got from some very strong sources on this marriage world. But working on yourself is almost that much stronger of a plan than going to marriage counseling.
How could you expect? I talked to somebody 2 weeks ago. They said I've been marriage counseling for 6 years. I was like, cool. What about personal counseling, one-on-one? What about personal development coaching? What about any of that? No, never done that. I'm like, well, how the hell do you expect that thing to change? And he's like,
right.
I don't know, man. Shouldn't the counselor have said something? I'm like, dude, here's the one thing we got to understand. People have agendas. A counselor has an agenda. You're a paycheck to them. They don't want you to leave. They know for a fact that they cannot help you. They know for a fact. And I think most counselors out there, therapists, are charlatans. If you don't know that, not saying Mike, but audience, if you don't know that word, look it up. I'm just being nice to say scam artists. Like, so are most coaches, by the way. They get a piece of paper and then just kind of start telling people things that they learned instead of living it, right? The audio is not matching the video. But like, how do you expect to the relationship to grow if you don't do the work?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there was a period in my life I actually went to a counselor for a little while, and I did that individual work, and they helped expose areas that I needed to work on, which was very, very powerful. So you got to keep shop. It's like anything. If you don't shop around, if you don't get good resources, you don't have good recommendations, then don't just go to go. You need to go to do the work too, right?
Yeah.
Don't just go and be like, well, they're going to solve her.
Right, go through the motions, yeah.
Yeah, you need to really, commit. But there's something I wanted to bring back to you. You talked about the guy in that awkward situation, and then you led to, kind of these differences that have built up and all that. There's an expert out there named John Gottman, done years of studies on marriage. And one of the things that I just sticks out of that book, out of all the great content that's in there, he's got like the 7 steps to marriage. I cannot tell you how good that thing is.
What's the book called?
Oh, shoot. It's John Gottman, the 7 something. I apologize.
We're gonna find it for the audience while you're talking, I'm gonna look it up.
I'm going to put that as, look, I'd love to put my book as number 1, but I'm going to put that one as, buy 2 books. Buy my book and buy his book, okay? But he talks about the 4 horsemen, and to be very, very careful of the 4 horsemen when you're dealing with each other in a relationship. And those 4 horsemen are being someone that criticizes, holding someone in contempt, being defensive, which I know I can do, and stonewalling, where you just absolutely shut down. If you want to start to repair and mend, and if you want to stay out of trouble, you can have a complaint in your relationship, like, hey, I'm upset that this is going on, whatever that is, fill in the blank. But
if
you're
like, those again?
It's criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. Criticism is, I'm coming after you and who you are and your integrity, not the problem. It'd be like, Ian, I think you're just a failure, and you're not getting it done around here because you're whatever. Just going after you, as opposed to, hey man, I'm really upset that we haven't accomplished this. I'd like to get you involved. That's a complaint. Sure. Criticism's going after the person. Contempt is, it could be replaced with disgust. If you're sitting there looking at your partner and all you can feel is disgust, then there's that attitude's got to change. You're not going to get anywhere with someone that you're just absolutely disgusted with. You've got to find ways to appreciate that person for who they are, honor them for who they are, and then you can start moving forward. But if you're in disgust mode, you got to fix that before you're going to even be able to move forward. Defensiveness, we all know what defensiveness looks like. And then stonewalling, I think we all know what that probably looks like too. It's just, I'm not even going to engage in this conversation. I'm walking away. Now, sometimes we do need to walk away. Things get hot. And if you don't walk away or take a breath or ask for that, hey, downtime so that we can take this on with a cool head, that's smart. That's actually really smart. It's been very recommended throughout marriage counseling and everywhere that you need to cool off before you get into, a serious topic if you can.
Sure. 7 principles for making marriage work.
Thank you. Yep. It's excellent, guys. It's chock full of not only great insights, but it also has little, just did one the other night with my wife, a great little, kind of game to play. You're stuck on a stranded island. You can only grab 10 items. There's 50 of them. What would you grab? Do? Just kind of helps you, and then you kind of assess, well, how did we work together? There's some good, just easy, true, false things to answer, and then give yourself a self-assessment and be like, you know what? No, I'm not a very patient person. I need to work on that. Or if your wife won't read it with you, read it yourself. Yeah.
This is about, what we're talking about here is all about you. There's no, and I have this conversation with guys every day where they're like, well, my wife's not coming to the line. I'm like, there's no line. There is no line. It's 100% from you and 100% from her. And if you're worried that she's not giving 100%, then there's a problem there, right? That may be the contempt or the defensiveness or stonewalling. That's very clear. And I feel like most guys who run more aggressive, and I want to know your thoughts on this, or like more like type A or like alpha dog, whatever the hell you want to call it, their wives are not that type of person, and they're almost being subservient to that attitude and behavior style that guy has. So the likelihood that your wife is going to pipe up, I mean, honestly, I know this from my marriage. Like, my wife is not like me. She's very different personality from me. And what we realized when we started getting really clear, open communication was like, she doesn't feel like she'd ever could be heard. Then what we determined was that was something from her past that was starting to pop up and be reminded by the way I was operating and showing up in the relationship. I was showing up in the relationship because I watched my dad take the reins and move the family forward. And that's what you do. You provide and you go out and seek new opportunity and find new animals to kill and bring them back and have a plethora of animals for the family to eat. That's what you do. That was pure programming from both of us. So technically, both of us were in our unconscious ego states. We literally were not ourselves, the real, true, authentic us, in our relationship for like 5 years, maybe even more. Maybe even more. What are your thoughts on that? The fact that most people show up in their relationship, I know we're getting deep on this one. Most people show up in their relationship as the traumatized version of them. Eckhart Tolle speaks so well about this, and the pain body, which is the ego and the trauma and the bullshit from the past. And then we're attracted to people's pain bodies. And we literally stay with the pain body because that means the ego is fed and the ego will stay alive. Isn't that crazy?
It's wild. Yeah. The more I dive into this to better understand why we have such challenges, and is a lot of what you said. So we each have our backgrounds, right? And our own little unique quirkiness about us, or something that, we believe things that we believe because of what happened to us, or we had a pain, so we don't want to feel that pain again. There's just so many different little nuances of what makes each one of us tick. And it's wild. We want to fix that in everybody else but ourselves, right? We see that little nuance in our wife or, girlfriend or whatever it is at the time, and we're like, man, if she was only just, this way or different in another way, this would be so much easier. Well, we're trying to make them like us as opposed to adapting to who they are and finding some good in that. Now, there's some things that are unhealthy for sure, and we need to help our partners understand some of those things that, when they're unhealthy. But if we're just trying to make them like us, look, there's another test out there, and again, we're going to be searching the internet here. I apologize, but it's a color coding test, and I'll tell you, like, I'm a red yellow. It basically means I can be, very outgoing and also have a very dominant side of me. Well, my wife's a green yellow, which means she's a little bit more reserved, a little more shy, and can be outgoing if the situation represents that way. But anyway, we have our different personality types, and we need to be aware of what our wives or significant others' personality type is, and realize that's their strengths. It's not their weaknesses. And I give the analogy all the time. If I ask a fish to climb a ladder, it's my own fault for asking a fish to climb a ladder. A fish is designed to swim. That fish is going to fail trying to climb a ladder.
So I want to go back to something that, like, I always want to figure out the foundational bedrock items for humans, so that, I created this company, this brand, this movement, whatever, just like you did, out of something we didn't like and out of stuff we did like. One of the things I didn't like was that a lot of the other coaching programs that I was going through were not getting to the bedrock. They weren't getting to the real meat of someone's situation. They were what I call acquisition type coaching programs or seminars, where they just give you a bunch of shit to try this meditation, try this over here, try that over there. Yet they're not getting to the root of the issue. Now, most of these people were not qualified to get to the root of the issue, so fine. However, I think it's really dangerous, because that's when people just keep going through and going through and going through more and more programs, and you get someone who's like, Yeah, I've been going to this seminar for 10 years. I'm like, oh, interesting. Like, how's your life improved? I'm like, oh, well, it hasn't yet. It takes time. I'm like, it doesn't take 10 effing years. It
No.
doesn't take 10 years. Something's not getting to the root. And so the question I have at the root is, I think most guys don't feel like they're worth it. Most guys don't feel like they're valuable enough to move on or to even fix their marriage. Most guys that I talk to, myself included, at a certain point in my life, like, I thought, well, when my wife and I were really thinking about getting divorced and moving on, like 6 years ago, I thought, I don't really want to start dating again. I don't really want to go through all that. That's a pain in the ass. Like, I might as well just stick this out. And that was my attitude for about a day. I'll be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started like, no, listen, this woman is everything I've ever wanted and needed in my life. Like, she's perfect partner for me. I'm not a perfect partner for her, right? And I had been getting that drilled into me for a very long time. That's why I just was so clear. But what do you say about guys that don't feel like they're valuable? They don't feel like they're worth it, or they're afraid that if they do get out of the relationship, then all they're going to be doing is they're even more stuck providing because they've got to pay for 2 households now, and now they're reduced to seeing their kids every other weekend, and like now they're going to stay in this relationship that isn't healthy because the alternative is even worse, which forces them into this thing that says you got to change, you got to evolve, and in their mind they're going, I'm not fucking worth it. My opinion doesn't matter. No one cares about me. So like now you're in a vicious cycle.
Right.
What do they do then?
Oh man, you hit on a lot of good stuff here that I want to address a number of different things. I want to start out quickly with, you are absolutely worth it, man. And the world needs more men that realize they are worth it. More women need husbands that realize they're worth it. They need fathers that feel like they're worth it. And you have what it takes. There's a big question in a lot of men's mind, do I have what it takes? And sometimes we get defeated by that question and we don't move forward. I think about finding joy and happiness in something that I want to have joy and happiness in that I'm not really good at. And I'll give you my example. It's fishing. Okay. I love fishing. I love being on the water. But I tell you, it took years of me being the worst fisherman for me to figure out how to be a decent fisherman. And I've still got a long way to go. And I would tell you, in a relationship, it can be a lot of the same. It's like, man, and you want to talk about pain? I have hooked myself. I have, fallen off the boat. I have actually thrown rods in the water on accident and lost money. I mean, there's been some pain where I've decided I was going to throw the boat away, throw the rods away, and just give up on this whole thing. But I knew there was pain, there was joy in there, and there was something that I loved and I wanted to continue to do. But I had to learn, and I had to ask questions. Anybody that fished, I talked to them about it. Anybody that had boats, I talked to them about it. Anybody that had a resource that they could turn me on to, I would engage in it. So you can make the choice to just keep moving forward with a miserable relationship, and be honest with you, that is your choice. Or you can invest, or you can try to make a change. You can ask some people for help. You got to get a little vulnerable and have the courage to say, I am struggling here. And that's where I would lead guys to. If you don't have a tight men's group, you need one. We all need one. We need guys that we can not just go play golf with and grab a beer with and do all that. That's fun. We need to be able to have that release. But if you don't have guys that you can be really honest with and transparent with, and not the ones that are just going to pat you on the back and be like, yeah, she sounds awful and you should divorce her. I mean, the guys are like, how can I help you? Or, hey, I'll go take that class with you. Or, you know what? I'll read a book with you too. It probably helped me with my marriage. So I think there's...
Let me ask you something on that, though. There are... I always say a lot of guys, and I'm basing this off of, like, I talk to thousands of guys a year. There's a lot of guys out there that are doing the golf thing, doing the football thing, doing the weekend thing, yet that's not actually them. They're doing that to avoid and to escape from something. Yep. And they'd actually rather be with a group of men. Like, for instance, there's a group that Aaron and I coach, and a lot of those guys said, like, this is where I want to be. These are the type of men I want to be around. Like, I don't want to be on the golf course playing 36 holes in a weekend. I actually want to be with guys like you talking about the challenges I'm facing, because I want to be better on Monday morning. Not just like, I scored, I beat all my buddies at golf. Like, that actually didn't have significance to me. It made me feel significant in the moment, yet it didn't have a significance in my life. And I regretted on Monday or Sunday night that I took that time away from my family. I don't know how to break the cycle.
Yep.
So what do you think about like the inauthentic life that most guys are living? I say most because it is the majority. It really is the majority. Like, how do you get it to find yourself? And by the way, Mental Purpose Community is that community you should join.
Yeah.
It's an ecosystem. It's an ecosystem of like-minded guys who are seeking to elevate and evolve themselves. And we could talk about all kinds of shit in there. It's just not. We talk about growth.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, I bet you, for those guys that are out there playing golf thinking like that, I bet there's somebody else on that tee box thinking exactly the same way.
Yeah, I agree. How do you become the guy that breaks that thing, goes, hey, can I talk to you about something deep?
You know, I a few years ago, I went down a faith journey, and it became a big part of my life. And so it was something I never talked about at work. I just separated that out. But it was wild how I would every now and then let something slip of, I was talking to a customer and I mentioned something about, I've got my men's group at church that we were talking about a similar topic. And they're like, oh, where do you, go to church? Or, all of a sudden the conversation opened up that I could talk about a piece of my life that is important to me, this newfound faith, because I was able to just slip a little something out there and see if they took it. If they took it, we'd run with it. If not, then... So it's being a little strategic with, if, a little vulnerable, put it out there. And if somebody bites on it, then great. If they start teasing and goofing off, then you might know that that's not the guy that you can maybe trust with those kind of conversations.
Fair. Okay. Yeah, the thing that I used to worry about is, like, I don't want to be outcast from this group because I'm the guy that wants to talk about feelings, and I so desperately wanted to talk about and understand other people's feelings and my feelings because, not to discredit my parents, they just didn't teach me that. They didn't know about that. They didn't understand their own feelings and emotions, and so I learned to manage emotions once they came up, not understand them so they don't come up like that. Or when they do, like, you're clear, like, oh, this is cool. Like, just a little anxiety because I'm thinking about the future. I know what this is. That was a big fear of mine in talking to other men. Like, I didn't want to be a pussy, like that's what men who share their feelings are.
Yeah. No, we definitely put that label on it, right?
Yeah. And dude, I get so much great feedback for this podcast. And I'm so grateful for it. And I'm also grateful for the hate mail that I get. I should publish some of it. I just don't like to give it a lot of attention. I get a lot of emails and DMs from guys that are like, man, you're turning men into women, and like you're pussifying men, and we need to teach men how to hunt and skin animals. And I'm like, what? Okay, man, no problem. I respect your opinion. That's just not my format here. So take that shit somewhere else. And I'll have people that want to be on the podcast, and they're like, hey, man, I think you need a different opinion. I think you need, like, real men shit. And you're like, well, I don't understand what real men shit is.
I think there's this line that they're like, well, you're either this over here or you're this. And I think the reality is we can be all that, guys. I'm a concealed carry guy. I like to hunt. I like to fish. But damn, if I'm not going to sit down with my wife and help understand what she's going through and be a compassionate guy. I carry a pocket knife and I carry a handkerchief. The pocket knife is to defend and to do whatever, I need to do from a strength standpoint. And the handkerchief, that's that whole iron and cotton on the front. That's to wipe her tears. That's to bandage, and be a compassionate person too. So if you think that being understanding emotions is strength. There's one of the things I put in my book is a study on emotional intelligence. Do you know only 36 people out of the 500,000 studied actually understand their emotions? We got all these people running around that don't even truly understand what they're feeling. God gave us all these emotions, this range of emotions, and this other lady, Gloria Wilcox, boiled it down into 6. You got anger, disgust, sadness, fear, happiness, and surprise. Well, guess what? sadness, fear, and surprise, a lot of us guys think are weak. We don't want to feel surprised, like we don't know what's going on. We don't want to be sad. We don't want to show that emotion, and we don't want to have fear be on the forefront. That's weak, right? That's what we think. So we take that away, and then all we are left with is anger and disgust and happiness. So we're either responding with two really negative emotions, which I know a lot of guys that are angry. They don't know how to express their emotion, and it comes out in anger. Well, guess what that does to your relationships? It just kills them, because you're not expressing that, hey, I'm actually a little afraid of something here. I'm afraid to lose my job, or I'm afraid my wife's going to leave me, or I'm afraid of what, reality. And instead it's, I'm pissed at this, or I'm pissed at that, and she sucks, and it comes out in anger, and you're not getting anywhere, except you're furthering that cycle that's going to lead you to that. Yeah, she is going to leave, and yeah, you are going to lose that job.
Yeah, what's interesting though is a lot of guys that I've talked to about that, like, dude, your wife's not going to respond to your anger if you just stop and say to her, like, this is what I'm feeling. And he goes, well, how do I do that? And I said, look, don't be afraid that she's not going to support you. You've been an asshole for 10 years. She supports you because she's still around, whether it's by fear or not. You got to break this cycle. That's what we were talking about in the beginning. Like, it's going to be awkward and uncomfortable. I mean, I still have that happen. I'm sure you do. Like, fear comes up and I'm like, fuck this. And it comes out in frustration. And my wife will go, when you're ready to talk to me about what's behind this, I'm ready to listen. Other than that, I'm not open to this version of you.
Yeah, I would say for those guys, do you think lack of control is strength?
No.
No. Lack of control is not strength. You having control is strength. And so understanding your emotions and what you're feeling, and be like, you know what? I'm ticked at this ceiling fan because it's above my head, and I can't get it to hang right. And I'm not mad at my wife that just came in and said, "Are you done yet?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not done yet." Like, and I'm barking at her. It's not her, it's me. My pride's injured because I should be man enough to get the ceiling fan up and done in a timely fashion, but my arms are killing me, and the nut fell off or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's controlling that anger and be like, I don't need to bark at her, and if I did, I need to quickly repair. That was not her fault. That's my own inadequacy. That's me losing control, and that's a weakness. Not having emotion is not a weakness.
Yeah, there's so many things that I'm writing down to like ask you about. And I don't even know what time it is because my timer reset. We're just gonna keep going. What's interesting is, like, you had mentioned something earlier about definition of a man. I just want to I want to talk about that because I know there's going to be some guys who are like, why didn't you ask that question? So we just kind of went over it with, like, most guys think that they have to be one or the other, right? That there isn't this mix of masculine and feminine energy, which there totally is. That's what yin and yang is. That's what black and white is. That's what night and day is. It's a juxtaposition of energies. And so there is, I think, everybody's common definition. What I seek to understand and what I want to know, what I like looking at, and I'm not a politics guy. I don't watch politics. I don't watch the news. I don't really watch TV. I watch Netflix. Like, it's not that I don't watch TV. It's that I don't watch, like, cable TV.
Right.
Like what you described earlier, which is like, you have to fit into this one thing. Like, if you're a man, this is what you are. And you're right here like this. And if you're a woman, this is what you are. And that's the same shit that happens in politics. And I've talked about this a couple times on this show. Like, this is what happens with the division between, like, Republicans and Democrats, or like, citizens and immigrants, or whatever it might be. People, they are so weak inside and so unknowing of who they really are, and or so afraid to speak up and stand for who they really are. Not these topics, but like, well, this is me. This is what I think. Like, they're so afraid of that they bond with these groups and they go, well, I'm a this, and this is what we think, and all the other people think this way and are like that. And I go, how the fuck do you even brush your teeth in the morning? Mm-hmm. How did you procreate? How do you drive a car with that limited amount of thinking? Not limited like you have a disability, limited as in your self-choice, to be that limited in your thinking, and to not know that other people have an opinion. I mean, that's what's so fucked up with our government, is that people's opinions are so radical, and they're coming from a place of fear and scarcity. that we don't have a clue what is actual or factual today. We just don't. That's the limit of my political discussion, by the way.
All right. You're
So
good,
what's
man.
the definition of a man?
Yeah, so I'll take that one with the first thing that comes to mind, and it was actually what I was seeking. That 5 some years ago was what does it actually mean? What does it mean to me? What is it? How do I define it? Because I'm raising a son now, and again, I've got daughters, and there's going to be men showing up, and what gauge do I have for them, and for myself? Because I've been just been living life. I'm having fun. In my 20s. Growing up. Thinking I just want to make money and buy things and toys and go have adventures, and I'm not thinking about this stuff, but this stuff matters. It really does on what it means to be a man out there today. And it's this big discussion, and you hear the word toxic masculinity going out there and all that. I don't even want to hear that noise personally. For me, I just want to live my life by a set of values, and that's where I'll go with this. So I launched actually originally where this all started was something called Modern Chivalry Men. I've still got it out there, Facebook page and all that, but I'm not doing as much with that. But I came down to 12 core values that I wanted to live by and define myself as a man by those core values. So adventure, courage, courtesy, leadership, loyalty, passion, honor, empathy, trust, all these different words that I wanted to say that is associated with who I am and who I want to be. Doesn't mean I get it right every day, but I wear it on my wrist to remind you, hey, that situation you're in, were you honest? Did you show empathy? Did you go have some adventure this week? Did you do these things to be the man that you say you want to be? You just went by a car that was pulled over on the side of the road. I thought you were going to be that guy that helps. Why aren't you go over there? Why didn't you take the time? Because I'm inconvenienced. So we have these things that are like, oh, I'm going to talk about it, but am I going to actually live it out? Now, I remember getting a guy, I pulled up behind a van that I found out was broke down because it wasn't moving. I got out, and there's a pregnant woman in the front seat. And I was like, oh, geez. And she's upset. She's frustrated. She's scared. Traffic's going by like crazy. Well, there's a Jeep behind me with a dude in it, and he looks as irritated as he can be. Well, I go back there, and I get him like, she needs help. And you could just tell I had put him out. But we got out. I got him to come help. We pushed it to the side. The dude walked off with a little lighter step. He got to be a part of being a man out there in today's world, okay?
Sure.
That's the kind of stuff where you step up, you stand up for people. You have a set of values that you live by, and you don't watch people get walked all over at work. You don't let women be treated poorly. You still open the dang door, even if she doesn't want you to. You live by a code that you say, this is to me what it means to be a man. And talk to other guys and be around guys that are of similar values. If you keep hanging out with guys that are talking trash, drinking too much, doing whatever, then you're a product of your own environment then, and you're not taking ownership of what it means to be a man.
Yeah, I really, really enjoy that definition. I love that definition I love that definition. It's so complete. And by the way, you don't have to be that way only to women. That is you being a man on purpose. And a model of that man on purpose to everybody. It doesn't mean you have to hold a door for women. It means you hold a door for people. It means you help people, not a pregnant woman. That's just one scenario. You can help people. Right. And the empathy toward people is a real missing in our society a lot of the time. I'm going to get for the audience, I'm going to get the show in the show notes all your criteria of a man. The 12 things are going to be out. We'll list them out. Did you list 12, by the way?
I'm not sure if I got all the way through, but I ran off a number of them.
Okay. You email me all 12, and then we'll post those up.
Will do.
I just really enjoy those. When I hear empathy, when I hear passion, like I really enjoy that. So I think we're probably near time. I got a couple more questions, and I think this is a really important topic. So if you got a little bit more time, let's keep going.
I'm good to go. I do think I did miss one value that I want to make sure I say because we hit on it earlier, and that's fearless love. Not just love, fearless love. Okay. Love people fearlessly in the sense of I don't know that I'm going to get that love back. I don't know that I like what people may think, but I'm going to do it anyway without fear.
I'm going to love even though I'm afraid of maybe getting hurt.
Yep. Fearless love.
Yeah. Beautiful. That's great, man. That's really great. So, there's so many questions. So many things that I'm like curious about.
Might have to do another recording, man. We'll set up another time. I'd love to come back.
What about time in a marriage? There's people that I talk to and they go, "Well, I've been married 20 years." You know, how do you rekindle that? How do you bring, like you were talking about, like I want to love, man. I want to be passionate. I want to like have fire. Like, how do you rekindle a marriage that's just kind of gone a little stale? Not like you didn't put the effort in. It's just that much time with one person. You both evolved. Maybe you've evolved away from each other, perhaps. How do you bring that passion back?
I would guess, I'm not in that state, but I know some older men that I went to a marriage conference with, they were in that state. And a big part of what came out of that was rediscovering your wife. So you're 15 years into marriage, 20 years of marriage, you go through like a season like I'm going through with my wife where we have 3 kids. It's like tag in, tag out, wrestling match kind of stuff. Like you go take this one to soccer, you go take this one to dance, you know, and next thing you know, 10 years has gone by and you're not spending time with each other. You're not going on dates, and you're both evolving during this time. Your job, or her being at home, or whatever the dynamic is, you're still changing as people. You're still being influenced by shows, TV, news, all that stuff. So you're changing. So I would highly encourage, if you want to bring that intimacy back, you want to bring back that connection, you need to relearn your wife. Whatever you think you knew about her when you guys first got married needs to almost be thrown out and say, I'm going to rediscover this woman that's across from me. I'm going to date her again. And that sounds awkward and weird. There is an app that John Gottman has. John Gottman has an app, like it's got flashcards. So it's the Gottman flashcards, Gottman Institute. And you can pull up their app. I think it's great. And they have date night questions, a lot of different little materials in there that you can use to help you re-navigate this connection with your wife and try to get to know her again. I read somewhere, and actually a couple different places, about how these older couples, they would actually state that they remarried each other at least 3 times in their lifetime. I married who she was in her 20s. Yeah. I married the new woman she was in her 40s. And we were remarried again in our 60s because it's a whole other person that they evolved into. And you're going to evolve. If you're sitting there thinking she's not the 20-year-old woman that she was, you're not either, man. And she needs to remarry you. So you need to keep being the guy that she wants to be with.
Yeah, and you got to understand who that guy is that she's looking to be with. Because I know a lot of guys that just let themselves go. And this is where that self-value piece comes in. Like, you got to do this for you. And if you don't find the passion or the space for you to be able to do it for you, you're not going to do it for her. Yeah. And then think about her. Think about what it is that she wants. If you don't know, you got to ask. Anybody that says to me, "Well, I think my wife," and I go, "Oh, no, hang on, don't think. Go ask." And they go, "Well, it's not really a question I want to ask." And I go, "Cool. Well, now we know a space where we need some work. It's great." Yeah. Our job is to just deduce down where the work needs to be, because when someone thinks like, well, shit, I've got kids, I've got a job, she's got a job, she's doing this, we're doing this, soccer and ballet and all these different things, then it goes, well, when is there time for us? When is there time for me? When is there time for her? When is there time for us? And so we have to break down exactly where we need to put our energy and effort and time to spend on us and our relationship. And that's it. Look for clues. Look for clues.
I'm going to use a little fear motivation for some of these guys that are listening here. Tell me what's more uncomfortable. Go into your wife and having a real conversation about what you want and what you need and what she wants and what she needs, be it whatever the aspect of your lives, from help around the house to in the bedroom, but having real authentic conversations. Because I tell you, the real authentic conversation you're going to have that if you're not doing that is, who gets custody of the kids? How are we breaking up this? You're going to be using lawyers to be having these conversations, and that's uncomfortable. A cold, dark courtroom is going to be your new environment if you're not spending the time to invest in having that uncomfortable conversation that you don't want to have, or that uncomfortable conversation where you're throwing up because You cheated on your wife because you were too scared to go home and talk to your wife, or she cheated on you, and now you're hearing this news that your relationship didn't work out and she's been with another man. How uncomfortable is that? So I would challenge you in a very big way that there are far more uncomfortable things that are headed your way if you can't have a little conversation with her. And I'll add to that, and I give credit to Peter Burke, who wrote Your Marriage Matters to God. If you guys are any faith-based listeners, that's an excellent book too. But he said, most of these guys would tell you they'll take a bullet for their wives. They'll take a bullet for their family. But they won't hand the remote over to let her watch her show and sit there with her.
Right.
Take a bullet for your relationship and start moving it in the right direction. Otherwise, it's going to be a slow death.
I agree. There's a meme out there, or whatever you call it, GIF. I don't know. It's I think it's Elon Musk, and there's a sentence underneath of it that says most people will scramble and do anything possible to grab a charger before their phone dies, yet they will do nothing as their dreams die or a relationship dies. This is fucking true. It's so
it's scary,
true.
Right? Yep.
And I think about like infidelity or cheating. As you were saying that, in my opinion, that is the result of something. People don't wake up in the morning and go, "Oh man, what a great day to cheat!" What a great day to bang someone else. They are forcing themselves and or being forced by someone else, which let's call accountability here, self-accountability. Like, cheating is a result of a missing in the relationship. So if that shit happens, the thing that most people will do is they'll be upset at the result.
Yep.
What they should be is thinking about and using that brain power to process, how the fuck did this get to this? And what can I do to fix this or evolve me or change the dynamic or whatever? It's not a reason for divorce. It should not be a reason for divorce. It should be a reason for counseling. It should be a reason for signing up for the Mental Purpose Mastermind and getting your shit out there with a group of 10 other guys who are offering a safe space for you to say, like, I'm not sexually satisfying my wife, or I can't talk to my wife about my feelings and I don't let her talk about her feelings to me either. Well, what's the result of that? A divorce, infidelity, roommate situation. Which one's the most uncomfortable? And you're right. The least uncomfortable the least uncomfortable out of all those is the communication. Yet the one in the present moment, because those other two are future, seems more uncomfortable because you got to do it now. And I know guys that would do anything to go back and work on themselves during their marriage, because the kids are suffering and they just see their wives so miserable because they didn't commit to themselves.
Yep.
So,
real quick note on the infidelity piece. Affairs are a form of escape that is seeking renewal, rejuvenation, and joy, but leads to depression, anxiety, and domestic violence. This is documented. This is where it goes. It does not get you the renewal and rejuvenation and joy that you're imagining in your head you're going to get. It's not the place to go. It just creates a lot of pain.
Well, Mike, we have, in the words of Howard Stern, we have said it all. Not really, though. We probably could talk about a lot more. This has been great, man. Really, really, really grateful for your time on here, your wisdom, your knowledge, like your viewpoints. I really enjoy, and I know the audience is going to get a lot out of this. So, thanks for being here. I'm not sure how long it's been. Maybe it's been 2 hours. I don't know.
I think I'm marking right about an hour, so this has been good, buddy. But yeah, the time has flown. I had a really good time talking with you, and I hope we continue to keep the conversation going. And I hope everybody got some good content out of this. You can find me at ironandcotton.org. That's my website. That'll lead you to a lot of things. I have more of an Instagram set up. I don't do a ton on there. Do have a lot keeping me busy in the day, but you can just look at Iron and Cotton, and you should be able to find me on Instagram or Facebook. But yeah, the book's out there on Amazon. You can get it at pretty much anywhere, Barnes & Noble, wherever you buy books, you should be able to find it. Now, you're going to search Iron and Cotton, and you're going to probably see some ironing boards and things like that. Yeah. But just scroll a couple down, you'll see the book, and put it in your cart and get the ebook or get the book. If you're an older gentleman and you've got kids, I'm telling you, I left a page in the book for you to write your own pieces of wisdom to pass on. This was really meant to be, in a way, a wedding gift too for our young men, to get them prepared for marriage in a way that a lot of us weren't. So, yeah. But a lot of the feedbacks, the guys that read it, they're like, man, I'm glad I read this. This is something stuff that I've never really dove into and I should be thinking more about. So it's really for everybody, but definitely something to consider be a gift for someone.
How creative, man, that title is so creative and meaningful. Like, it's really cool, really cool. And it really defines and kind of harkens back to your definition of a man who's strong and vulnerable, and there's strength in the vulnerability, and who can wield the knife yet be compassionate and wipe someone else's tears and cry with them. Like, that's really cool, man. I think you've got something great going on here.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Well, audience, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and reach out to Mike if you have any questions. Grab the Iron and Cotton book, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Sounds good. Take care, everybody.